I'm sometimes asked how I have so much confidence. The truth is, right before I go out to speak in front of 100 people, I'm often terrified. But over the years, I've found ways to get myself to do things that I find hard. This episode, I discuss with Imam Magid what Surat Yusuf teaches us about building confidence. How did Yusuf, alayhi salam, a former enslaved person and a former prisoner, find the confidence to say, "Put me in charge of the nation's storehouses. I shall manage them prudently and carefully." Ayah 55. This is Quran Conversations, the podcast for anyone who wishes to unlock the meaning and healing power of the Quran. I'm your host, Dalia Mogahed, an author, researcher, and a student of the Quran. I'll be in conversation with one of my dearest teachers, Imam Magid, a scholar of the Quran and longtime family counselor and congregational leader. If you're enjoying this podcast, please review it on your podcasting platform. It helps us more than you know. Quran Conversations is sponsored by Fawakih, an online learning platform for Quranic Arabic, which I myself use. Start your journey in unlocking the language of the Quran. Go to fawakih.org. We hope this podcast encourages your own reflective journey with the Quran. Make sure to stay until the very end to hear this week's reflection prompt. For more spiritual insights, follow me on Instagram at Dalia Mogahed. Without further ado, let's dive into the episode. Assalamu alaikum. So good to be back with you, Imam Magid, to have this discussion.
A pleasure. Absolutely. Look forward.
Alhamdulillah. So I wanted to actually pick up from where we ended up last episode on Ayah 55 and discuss it a little bit more because it touches on a topic we started to talk about, which is having confidence. I've had this question posed to me several times. How do you have so much confidence, or how are you able to go up on stage and speak to thousands of people with confidence? And the answer is I'm always terrified, actually. Before, like, people will ask me, especially about, like my TED Talk or when I appeared with Trevor Noah on the Daily Show, how I had confidence in such a high profile or difficult situation. And so I was thinking about that. And in both cases, and in most cases, when I have something like that, I'm the furthest thing from confident right before I get on stage. I am absolutely shaking and terrified. But I wanted to answer the question from the point of view of the surah, to inform myself, maybe to help me, and also to help so many people who have asked this question and I think struggle with it. If you're walking into a meeting and you have this imposter syndrome and you feel like you shouldn't be there, and you aren't qualified, or you're not experienced enough, or you're scared to go up on stage and speak, or you're just going to have a really hard conversation with someone and you're feeling scared and you want to find, that strength. So if it's okay with you, Imam Magid, I wanted to share with you my reflections on this question, and I'd love your thoughts and additions, objections, corrections.
I would love to hear your perspective. As always, has good insight. Please.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So I thought about this idea, the anatomy of confidence. And what are we able to draw from this surah on that? Because he's a man who's just leaving prison, and he's being pardoned and is about to be, an advisor, sort of a dream interpreter of the king. And he says, no, actually, I'm going to ask for something way bigger. Put me in charge of the entire financial resources, all the financial resources of one of the greatest civilizations on earth at that time. I mean, it is a very big declaration and request from someone who isn't Egyptian, right? He's a foreigner, was a slave, and then was put in prison for a scandal, even though he's been cleared, he's still a slave. That's what he was before prison. He wasn't a free person who was a foreigner. He's a slave who was a foreigner. And now he has the audacity and the confidence to say, actually, I need to be the minister of finance of Egypt. So we have to understand what is actually, like, if you think imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm not the one that should be asking. No. Think about Yusuf alayhi salam and what he was asking for. But where did he draw that confidence from? Where did he get that sense of, like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I should be the one? So I put 5 ideas, 5 thoughts of what is the anatomy of this kind of confidence. The first is his identity. And we've discussed this in previous episodes, is you have to know who you are and where you come from. You have to draw strength from your knowledge of your spiritual lineage. So sometimes when I'm in very difficult situations, when I have to have a very difficult conversation, I say to myself, I literally say these words. I say, you are the daughter of Nusayba and Safiya. And these are 2 great companions. And we have to learn the seerah. We have to learn our own history. If we don't learn our history, we're depriving ourselves of such a source of strength. These are 2 warrior women that were companions of the Prophet that saved Nusayba. In the case of Nusayba, saved the Prophet ﷺ, defended him in the battle of Uhud. And in the case of Safiya, saved all the women in the compound in the Battle of the Trench.
Absolutely.
With their courage. In very difficult situations. So I say to myself, if they can do that, and I inherited that legacy. I'm their daughter. I can do this. And you draw strength from your ancestors. And we are also, the other thing is our ancestors, this is where identity comes from. We are the answer of their dua. We are standing wherever we are because they made dua for us. And so when you think of yourself as the answer to your ancestors' dua, it's such a powerful inspiration to really make them proud and be strong and be confident. Yusuf alayhi salam was absolutely the answer to his ancestors' dua. He was the answer to Ibrahim alayhi salam's dua. He was the answer to his own father's dua. And so to draw strength from that identity, that's the first thing. I want to just stop here because I have 5 of them. I don't want to just go through. I want to hear your thoughts before I keep going.
Yeah, I think this is very important what you just said. The question a person might ask our audience is say, okay, if I have family who are not Muslims, or I have family where, my parents not practicing Islam,
right?
What happened to my dua or my family? I want to say that you have to remember that every one of us has a spiritual lineage, and we have a biological lineage. And the idea that you're just talking about spiritual lineage is very crucial, very important. But you have to remember that in our lineage, even biological lineage, there's some believers there, no matter what. There's Adam alayhi salam for sure was the a prophet of Allah. Therefore, none of us in the lineage, all of the people did not believe in God. That is one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is that when the person, being comfortable also in their heritage, even if they are not Muslims, you have in this country people like Dr. King, who stood for what is right in society, has courage to fight for the rights of others. So you learn also from righteous people or good people who have stood for what is right, for justice and so forth. You might have an African-American person, that a young lady that looked to Rosa Parks in that lineage of courage as well. Therefore, I agree with you that you need, in order to be proud of who you are, you need to know your history. You need to know to be comfortable under your skin, no matter what your ethnicity, no matter what ethnicity you may have and what the background you might come from, that you still have something there, legacy of courage and virtues that you can lean on and you can activate at the difficult time.
That's so beautiful and so very true. And I'm reminded actually of the beautiful story where Rasulullah alayhi salam, he said, my brothers. And the companion said, we are your brothers. He said, no, you're my companions. My brothers are those who have never seen me, but will believe in me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about us, his dua. If you're a believer in this man, you're the product of a dua that he made.
Absolutely. You're right.
So you're always going to be the product of someone's dua.
Absolutely.
The greatest person's dua.
Absolutely. And Allah called his wives our mothers.
Mm-hmm. And this is not by accident, because this idea of lineage, even if it's not physical lineage, biological lineage, because that's actually something that we're told to not emphasize, right? I mean, we have to preserve it and know what it is, but we don't take pride in, I'm this person's, the bloodline is not what we should take pride in. But it's the spiritual bloodline.
Absolutely, because Yusuf alayhi salam in this ayat said, وَتَبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي. He referred to them or their millah, their faith. For he was proud of their faith. It's not about their ethnicities. وَتَبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَإِسْحَاقَ. For he was, and Ismail alayhi salam, he's not completely. His uncle.
He's not exactly his bloodline, right?
Yes.
But this is such a good point that Ismail was included.
Yes.
SubhanAllah, that's such a good point.
And he called him father too.
That's such a beautiful point, and it reiterates this idea of the way of life of our spiritual ancestors.
Yes.
And that includes all of the prophets.
Yes.
Alayhim salam. So the second thing that I had thought about in terms of the anatomy of confidence is intention. So first you have to really clarify to yourself your identity, who you are, and where you come from. The second thing is you have to clarify your intention, because when your intention is mixed, it shakes you inside.
Mm-hmm.
You actually aren't able to be strong when you're like, part of your intention is selfish, or part of your intention is deception, or part of your, you have to be crystal clear on why you're there.
Absolutely.
So he knew that even though he used to be a former slave, he was a former prisoner, all these things, he's an ex-con, as we say. He knew his intentions were to be of service. He was not in this for himself. So he had complete confidence. Sometimes people will, I actually ask them, how are you so confident to do this fundraising? Sometimes fundraising is really hard.
Yeah.
And you're just pushing so hard.
Everyone knows.
I said, everyone knows who's done it.
Yeah.
And I said, how do you do that? When people are like, khalas, they're done, they've given everything, and you come back and ask for more. And they said, because I'm not asking for myself.
Yeah.
I'm asking for this orphan, so I have all the confidence in the world to ask, because it's not for me.
Yeah.
And this is exactly this idea. He wasn't asking for himself. He wasn't trying to get a big house in Egypt or a comfortable life. His intention was to be of service. He knew that the need and the cause was bigger than himself and his fear. And it reminded me of the famous dua of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, that we all, if you do any public speaking, we all say dua, Musa's dua, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. And the meaning is, Rabbi shrah li sadri, my Lord, expand my chest. Wa yassir li amri, make my affairs easy. وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي, untie my tongue so they may understand me. And I want to just emphasize this point. Every single part of this dua should have like its own tafsir, but I just want to focus on the last part. يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, so they may understand my words. His intention was not to be praised, was not to be admired, not to gain anything, just for them to understand him, for him to deliver this message.
Exactly.
He wanted to be of service.
Absolutely.
And that's where he got his strength to do something very, very hard.
Yeah, I like that.
So,
I like the idea of intention to be the center of this confidence. Because when Yusuf alayhi salam interpreted the dream the first time, he didn't ask for anything, though. That's what the intention.
No, you're right.
Exactly. That's what the intentions come from. He interpreted the dream, and then when he was asked to come to be recognized, acknowledged of his knowledge, then he says, "This strategic planning of economic recovery, I want to implement it. I know how to do that. I gave you the idea." Right. But I think I'm the best person to implement the strategic planning because I'm the one who brought you this understanding of 7 years, and 1 year, about 15 years plan, actually.
15-year plan.
Yeah, 15 years, because 7, 1. He wanted to see all of it happening. And therefore he said, let me execute it because I know how to do it. I'm trustworthy. And alim, I have knowledge, the know-how. But the idea of the intention is he wanted to save people of Egypt.
Yes.
That's his intention. That's why he interpreted the dream with any expectation in the beginning. But now he's worried about maybe somebody else might not execute it because he wants somebody to be hafiz, to be trustworthy. Why? Because sometimes if you store this amount of food, you might start giving to your family and go. And he doesn't have family to begin with in Egypt. The family come like anyone else seeking the food, but he was not part of what they call the inner circle around this king. For the advantage he has, he's a stranger. Therefore, he doesn't have any ties. He doesn't. And he was in prison for a while. He didn't build any kind of connection all of these years, coming fresh and looking only to execute this for the benefit of the people. He's a people man. Therefore, he was not part of the court of the king and so forth. Now he comes with a fresh idea, like sometimes you say in America, out of the beltway. If somebody comes out of
he's outside the establishment.
Outside the establishment.
He doesn't owe anyone any favors.
Yeah. But it's amazing. There's the idea of have the intention that you just mentioned is a part of confidence building. If we do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we feel nothing but Allah. We seek the reward from nobody but except from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why when you enter any court of any person in power, my father gave me this advice and I shared that with you. He said that you have to remember that the person before you is a human being. Give them the title Allah has given, the human being has given them. Don't take their title away. But they have to put them in perspective that they die, they get sick, and they will be resurrected day of judgment. And use what Musa alayhi salam, Allah ordered him to do. Don't go there to insult somebody and so forth. So if you want to soften their heart, don't insult them. But it's very important, very important to have that niyyah that I'm doing for the sake of Allah. I tell people, like, when you are really in the room of power, make your intention da'wah. Make your intention, you want to share your best of you as a Muslim. You want to represent Islam. Even when you talk to them about politics, you have to, when the person walk away, said, I heard from this Muslim, and even if they didn't respond at the moment, when they go to bed, they're going to think about it. But if you insult somebody and say bad things to them, they remove you from their heart and their mind. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely true. And the idea of intention when you're in the court of power, as you say, is if you are there to be of service, you are there to truly be of service, this intention will come through in what you say, even if you have to say something very difficult.
Yes.
Even if you have to deliver
Absolutely.
news they don't want to hear.
Absolutely.
It will come from that place of, I want good for you. I want good for everyone. I want the greater good. I'm not here out of selfishness or to cut you down. I'm here because I need to tell you something difficult to hear, which actually this interpretation is a difficult thing to hear.
Yeah.
We're about to have a really hard, 15 years.
Yes.
Part of it is very, very difficult. So he had to tell them some hard news. He also had to tell some hard news to the prisoner who was going to be crucified.
Exactly.
So he was able, because out of service, I have to be honest with you. I have to tell you the real deal.
Yes.
Because I want good for you.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it comes through and you're able to have the courage to do that when your intentions are clarified. So the third thing I wanted to mention is intellectual focus. And what I mean by that is this, that we can draw courage by focusing on the creator and the cause that we're working for, not the calamity. What does this mean? To have this kind of courage, he wasn't thinking about his own calamity. He wasn't thinking about all that I have been through, all that they have done to me. And therefore, you feel weak and small and victimized. He was thinking his intellectual focus. So what I mean by intellectual focus is, what do you see on your intellectual horizon? What is your focus when you are showing up in a space? Is it the creator? Is it the one who created this intimidating person? He's talking to the king, but he doesn't see him as something huge that he can't talk to. He is thinking of the creator of that king. So this king goes back to, his own size, as you said, to think of someone as a human being. You do that how? By thinking of his creator. Your intellectual focus is the creator of all these intimidating people in the room.
Yes.
Right? And the cause. What am I even here doing?
Absolutely.
Right? And in that mental process, you gain confidence.
Yes. What you're saying, that this is Dalia, that a person have to analyze, the cause and the reason when they've been put on the stage, or the reason that you are in this circle of influence.
Right.
What you were saying made me think about the audience and the beneficiary of his service, not the king, the people.
Right.
Because the king might have his own food, maybe be storing, have somebody in Swiss bank.
Yes, exactly. He's not going to be impacted by a famine.
Exactly.
The kings don't get impacted by famines. Yeah.
Therefore, his goal is to save the people. Sometimes the power of convening and the power of access that help you to serve people. Sometimes I need to have that power to get to the people without compromising your principle. It's a very interesting that Yusuf alayhi salam, he said, Inni, that I am really hafidun alim. And sometimes people talk to me about that you should not say ana. But he said, he didn't say ana hafidun alim. He said inni. Okay? He didn't say اجعلني على خزائن الأرض أنا حفيظ عليم. Because this ana would be arrogant. He said inni.
So translate what you just said.
Yes.
Please. Yes.
The word ana means I. In the capital I. But he said, I am this my ability, my skill sets, that I have knowledge, but also trust me, I'm trustworthy. He didn't say I'm the trustworthy. Inni hafidun alim. He's talking about his quality without being arrogant. That's why in Arabic we say instead of say ana, say inni. Inni, speaking about your state. Ana is bragging about who you are, about the ability, the aptitude, and so forth. Therefore, they said that don't say ana. The word inni is soft. So,
Okay.
You could have said قال اجعلني أحد ana means I am the. No, say I do have this quality. I do this quality. I can do this. Which is different. وقال إني حفيظ عليه. يعني the way even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quoting him, telling that he said that with humility, but at the same time with confidence.
That is so beautiful and interesting. I never understood that and never knew the difference between inni and ana in how someone explains who they are or talks about themselves. And I think it's so interesting that this ayah is often used as sort of counter evidence to the idea that you should never ask for power. It's saying, he asked for power or he asked for authority. I mean, in some ways, he's asking for the opportunity to be of service.
Yes.
And in a humble way, sharing who he is and why he's qualified.
Exactly.
And so the confidence and the humility of telling someone who you are and why you're qualified without arrogance is what is being exemplified here.
You look at the Quran, for example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Yusuf, Inni ana Allah. Allah can talk like that. Inni ana Allah.
Yeah.
Ma qad inni Allah. Qad inni ana Allah. Which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no one except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ana there is different.
This is when he was talking to Musa alayhi salam? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Inni ana Allah. Yeah. Only Allah can subhanahu wa ta'ala can speak like that, which is
Yusuf will not say Inni ana hafidun alim.
No. That's that subtlety in language is very important to point out. Thank you so much. So the fourth thing is invest in your development, in your own development. So you cannot show up to a meeting that you're supposed to be representing somebody or your community or a conversation even, or let alone a speech, without dozens, if not hundreds of hours of prep.
Yes.
You have to invest in yourself.
Absolutely.
In your own development, hone your skill. Confidence requires practice and individual development. It cannot come out of nowhere. Even all these things that we've said, intention and intellectual focus and identity, they are incredibly important foundations, but it does not substitute the hard work of doing your homework. And that's what he did. He had a skill that he honed, that he developed. And so he was confident in the fact that he had done that prep work.
Yes.
And that is absolutely essential.
Yeah, because he his knowledge, the proof of his knowledge in the interpretation of the dream itself. He has a whole plan. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him. He been Hafiz because he did not portray the king. He did not portray the prime minister. Therefore, he really passed the test. He was entrusted to be in that house and he did not do anything with that woman, and he ran away from it. Therefore, he said, I know, I have a history that I rejected and refused temptation. Therefore, there's no one can come and take money from me.
I refuse the greatest temptation, pretty much, for most men. And so I can temptation of money is nothing compared to that.
There's two temptations for men. Women, have infidelity in their marriages and have a scandal of money. Those two things that corrupt people in power. Now, temptation, physical temptation and material temptation. Now, there's something very interesting, though, and I was thinking about that. When Yusuf alayhi salam said that, one of the things that you said that resonated with me, he did not play a victim mentality. That really resonates what you just said. I've been thinking about it since you just said it, a few minutes ago, that he says, Inni hafidun alim. That means he did not start talking about compensation of the time in prison and so forth. He said, I'm going to move forward. Now I'm going to really make me in charge. I will help this nation. It's something very important that sometimes in our personal bitterness, even among ourselves as Muslims sometimes, I might have a problem with this organization or that person. But there comes a moment that I have to really let go of that because of the bigger cause and a bigger picture for the Muslim community. I might have a personal relationship with somebody who has insulted me, relationship with somebody insulted me. But I believe that this person now can deliver to the Muslim community. I have to have their back. Again, it's my own bitterness because what at the stake is bigger than me. For Yusuf alayhi salam, he looked at what at the stake is bigger than him. Therefore, let us not have bitterness, and to have confidence in ourselves to be able to deliver. We should be free from this bitterness and grudges, that because sometimes it will just shake our confidence to say, I've been wronged. I don't know if I'll be able to have a heart that will be able to forgive or I'll be able to deliver without putting other Muslim down. Because when you're being put in that room, part of your confidence that you have to be a confidence that you're representing all Muslims or representing the Muslim that you think that they trust you. And that could be somebody have wronged you before. I said to one of the brother one time, I said to him that I was fascinated by the Umar have said to a man said to him that Umar said to the man, I don't love you, I don't like you. And the man said, Umar being frank, he said to him, the fact that you don't like me can impact your judgment toward me. You're going to be unfair to me? He said, no. He said, I don't care then whether you love me or not. The man said that to Umar. The man wants justice. He doesn't want love. He said, are you going to be just? Sometimes we have to be just and fair. If with some people, even we disagree with them politically, might disagree with them, even some level of ideological disagreement. But if they've been wronged, if somebody go after them, if somebody do something wrong to them, we have to tell people it's wrong. That is very important. For regardless of what we think of them in a political arena and ideological and so forth, Yusuf alayhi salam doesn't have bitterness. The society have wronged him. Those women that are elite of the society, judicial system went wrong against him. Not one day, decades of being in prison. Therefore, it is ability in the spiritual sense. In order to have confidence, you have to have a spiritual resilience to be overcome those pain that you may have.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of rising above your own personal slights that have occurred to you, someone being, individually insulting to you or something, and rising above that for the greater cause is a very important point. And also being fair. If someone is wronged by society, even if they're not the perfect victim, meaning they may have insulted you, they may have done something against you, but now they're legitimately being oppressed. You have to stand on the side of justice, even if you don't like the person that is being oppressed.
And that was what Allah says in the Quran. Don't let you dislike into somebody, not have you be just. Allah says so.
It's incredibly important that it's not about if you like the victim or if the victim is politically correct or the victim is, perfect victim. Are they being victimized? Are they being unjustly treated or not? And that's the only thing that should really enter into your mind. I do want to also mention, though, because sometimes people will hear that and say, are you saying that people shouldn't be held accountable in our community? We should just move on and say the greater cause. No, of course not. Neither of us think that.
Absolutely
of
not.
course.
Absolutely not. Accountability is very important for the process of correcting oneself. I'm talking about when you see somebody, like say if somebody was profiled and put in prison, a Muslim, wrongly, the government went after them and they wronged them. No matter how much you disagree with them politically, now you have an absolutely obligation to defend them when they have been wronged.
Yes.
That's right. That's what I meant by that.
Right. Absolutely. And I just wanted to clarify, just make that part crystal clear, because sometimes when people call for accountability, legitimate accountability of someone, a Muslim leader who has violated the rights of others in whatever way, and then they're told, you're making the community look bad or not, the greater cause is us to just stick together. Of course, that's not true.
No, that's
we
not
don't
true.
subscribe to that at
no.
all. No. Yeah. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I think the idea of standing on the side of justice, even above our own personal gripes or disagreements, is so important. And that's exactly what Yusuf alayhi salam did in this case. So one other thing I just wanted to mention in terms of investing in your development and honing your skill and knowing what you're talking about is that also includes relationships, right? It includes building your own character. So when I say investing in your own development, I initially meant your skills, but one thing you said, Imam Magid, that I actually want to add to that point is that Yusuf alayhi salam had a track record of upright character.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that was an investment as well.
Absolutely.
If you want confidence, you have to have this sense that you are aligned with your own values in the way you live.
Absolutely.
You live in your integrity.
Yes.
There is nothing more powerful to give you confidence than to feel and believe that you are living in your integrity. When you deviate from that, you lose your confidence immediately.
Absolutely.
In fact, one thing I learned is that authoritarian governments will make things so difficult in terms of just getting basic needs met, like getting a phone line or getting water to your house or getting electricity. So you have to bribe someone out of necessity, not because you're trying to get something you don't have a right to, but things are so difficult. Why they make it like that? It's actually by design. So you always feel a lack of confidence because you've actually violated, your own integrity.
Yes.
You've given someone a bribe. You've broken this rule. You've gone around the system in this way because the system is so rigged against you. You don't have a choice sometimes. But they make it this way so everyone has something that can be held against them. No one can just be strong in their integrity and upright. Whereas Yusuf alayhi salam had that, even though it was prison and even though it was all these other things that were going to happen to him, he had this, like as Imra'at al-Aziz, as Zulaykha said about him, this idea of fastasam, he held strong, even when he was holding onto the rope of Allah strong. And even when he was in a weak position politically, in a weak position socially, she was coercing him and so forth. He had this strength of character and the sense of resolution that he was going to live in his integrity and was going to uphold his own ethics. And when you live that way, trust me, the biggest perk of living in your integrity and according to your ethical framework, even when it's hard, is confidence.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. People give up too soon and too quickly sometimes to the pressure. if they just have hold a little bit longer, then they will be able to overcome. They said that many people, they fail when about to succeed. They didn't hold long enough. They give too soon. Hastiness make people make wrong decisions.
Absolutely. And then the final thing I had, thought about is investing in others. And so the idea of confidence is born also out of being very generous with your knowledge.
Yeah.
And sharing what you know, when you have a skill, when you have a way to save others, even when they have no power. I mean, who was he serving in prison? Not someone who could really help him. He had no idea where these two were going to go.
Mm-hmm.
It was not until later that he found out that the second prisoner was going to be leaving the prison. But the idea of being generous with your knowledge to make a difference in people's lives and being of service to others will build your confidence, and it will make a difference in their lives. And this invites blessings into yours.
Yes. And let me ask you this. What is the role of Yaqub alayhi salam into this? When he said, اتبعت ملة آبائي إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق, I think some of this confidence with that private conversation he has with his parent, that, the father realizes a big dream, therefore validated him, the validations of parents. One of the things that we have to remember that sometimes as parents, we contribute to low self-esteem of our children.
Yes.
When we tell them, you're not good for anything, or when they fall and we just leave them falling and sometimes abandon them, of helping them. But it's very important that not to give up on your children. Have that confidence that, no matter what they're struggling with, that build that confidence in them. And then something good will come out of them, inshallah. I think that relationship in the beginning of the story itself,
absolutely,
it is helped that building that confidence. And that one, when he talks to the prisoners, he said that I did not join the belief system that happened in Egypt, and I continue to hold to a legacy of my parents of believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why I said to people always, the amount of support people get in their family, especially children, it impact them how they face the world. And standing against the bullying in the school and have them to be comfortable in their identity being Muslim. But it begins at home. If the parents are hesitant, scared, frightened, and themselves, they don't have that kind of a level of confidence in themselves, then the children will reflect. That will be reflected on their children. But it's very important for us to think about how we build confidence also within our family. The second confidence that I'm talking about is the confidence comes from the community. How the community can support one another, how the community be there for each other. And if you look to the Quran, Allah said, "Al-mu'minun wal-mu'minat ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd," that they're protector of one another, and they supported one another. When Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in the cave, Ghar Hira, he gave confidence to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He said, "Don't worry about it. Allah is our third." ثاني اثنين هم في الغار يقول صاحبي لا تحزن. He was the second of the two. And by the way, it's very interesting in the verse. I'll not go to other interpretation of other verses of the Quran, but he said to him ثاني اثنين. He could have said he is the Rasul is one of the. He said he could have said the Prophet said that, but ثاني اثنين means that they support each other. You could, because in Arabic, you say ثاني اثنين means both of them are equal at that moment in the difficulty they have. Okay, they say one of the three. That means a part of a group. فالله سبحانه وتعالى said ثاني اثنين, that means they support one another at that time.
Can you translate, please, ثاني اثنين, just that term?
He's a second of the two, or he's one of the twos. One of the
one
two.
Of the two.
One of the two.
One of the pair.
One of the pair. One of the pair. You say one of the three. One of the four.
Okay.
Instead of saying the second person said, or the first person said, one of the two. ثاني اثنين.
And it emphasizes their equality.
The equality basically. At that time in terms of supporting one another. Of course, the Prophet is above Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, but yes. The support at that moment they have for each other.
Mutual support in that moment is what's emphasized.
يقول صاحبي لا تحزن إن الله معنا. So he gave him the confidence, said إن الله معنا. الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم doesn't need confidence from Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, but Abu Bakr yet in Badr, when the Prophet was raising his hand very high, making dua, Abu Bakr said, هون عليك يا رسول الله. Oh Rasulullah, take it easy. Allah will never deprive you. He gave him the support. Now he gives the Prophet the emotional support. Therefore, it's very important. Confidence comes from the emotional support you get from the community, and somebody standing next to you, somebody be there for you and for your family.
That's such an important point, that we have to give each other emotional support to get confidence. We can't do this by ourselves.
Yes.
This is absolutely a team sport.
And one of the young people at Adams told me something very interesting. He said one of the best things happened to him is MSA in high school. I said, how that? He said, give me confidence, he said to me. He said that with the fact that we went together and asked for Jum'ah, he said he becomes so proud being Muslim. He said, I would not go to my prayer, but when I realized that now I'm asking for it, I can ask for it. He said, let him come to the masjid, become around young people more. Therefore, that support the young people that give each other in universities and public school is very crucial, very important.
We absolutely need that. We absolutely need the social support to, like it said, to make an idea seem plausible.
Yeah.
So when we're trying to hold on to a faith, there's so much in Islam that talks about the importance of community. We need that social support to stay strong in our faith. We cannot do it alone. And I think there's this hyper individualism that has seeped into our community, where people are trying to do Islam alone, right? I call it YouTube Islam, where it's just like me. I'm going to watch some video, and these are practicing Muslims. I'm not, this isn't someone who's, but I'm never going to congregate with other Muslims. I'm going to watch my favorite, speakers online, and that'll be it. That I'm going to be a Muslim alone. Yeah. It does not work.
Yeah.
You have to be in community.
Absolutely.
Find a community that you feel at home with, but you have to be in community.
Yes.
So I appreciate this conversation so much, Imam Magid. I'm going to end here.
Yes.
I think it's a good place to stop, and we'll pick up, inshallah, next week.
Absolutely.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Barakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Share this episode with others who may be interested in the meaning of the Quran. Also, we love hearing from our listeners. Tell us your reflections or feedback on the podcast at Quran Conversations, the Instagram page. We read every single one. Finally, we hope this podcast encourages your own reflective journey with the Quran. This week's reflection prompt is this: what has given you confidence in your life? And what does Surat Yusuf say to you about building your self-assurance? Until next week, Assalamu alaikum.